Hey everybody, welcome back to Gaijin Guide. And this time I thought I would tell you a little bit about what it's like to go to the movies here in Japan. It's one of those things that you really don't think about. It's just sort of such a small thing. But actually, going to the movies in Japan is actually all in all, I think, a pretty cool experience. Um, It is a little bit more expensive than going to the movies in the U.S. Uh, for example, like I went to a movie today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. And it cost me 1,800 yen, which, if you wanted to get it, is like, if you're really exacting about it, it's sort of like 15 bucks. I just sort of do the lazy American thing and just sort of chop two zeros off the end and think of that as being the equivalent in dollars. It's not a perfect conversion, but it is very simple. Which, 18 bucks for a movie. Where I'm from, that's a bit stiff. But then again, I didn't grow up in a big city. I'm from kind of a small city of about 50,000 people. So there, if you kind of go to a matinee, you can get to the movies for like not like a little over like maybe 12 bucks. But things are generally on the whole more expensive in Japan, so you just sort of have to sort of accept that. So I went there today to see Spider-Man: Homecoming, which today being August 13th, Spider-Man only came out here on Friday. Of course, it came out quite a bit ago in the United States, and that is one of the downsides of going to the movies here in Japan, is that Japan is often one of the last places to get American movies. I've previously lived in South Korea, and occasionally Korea actually would get the movies before the U.S. That happened once or twice during the 3 years that I lived there. And then after that, it would usually follow a little bit later, several weeks later. Um, in Japan, sometimes the wait can be up to 6 months. Deadpool, I heard, came out like 6 months here, 6 months after it did in the U.S. Fortunately for me, I was still living in the U.S. then, and I got to see Deadpool there. And oh man, Deadpool was such a great movie. But anyway, so price aside, that's I think the most negative side of going to the movies here. All in all, like Japanese theaters are, in my book, from the ones I've been to, pretty darn cool. One of the nicest things is out in the lobby they have this big area all full of these little handbills, playbills, I guess you might call them, talking about the movies that are out now and the movies that are coming out soon. And they have these in these in Korean movie theaters too. And these things they have these little, like I said, handbills for movies, and these are like so cool. Like, let me show you a couple of them that I picked up the other week. Here's one for what I went to see today, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I really love the back here. I mean, it's just sort of one of those famous pictures, but there's just something that's really kind of appealing about it, and it sort of just talks about the movie, and I guess there's a little something here about somebody who's some Japanese artist that's oh, the Japanese theme, yeah, the Japanese theme song to the movie. Because sometimes American movies over here have their own unique song created in Japanese for that movie. I know the first Tobey Maguire movie had its own Japanese theme song, and it's just kind of one of those things that just sort of helps sell the movie to the local audiences. Um, Here's a kind of cool one I picked up for when I went and saw Logan several weeks ago. I don't know why, but I'm just always really fascinated seeing all these descriptions of like stuff from the U.S., particularly like American superheroes, all written in Japanese. I've read some things like written about for people who are interested in American comics, sort of discussing the history of American superhero characters and things like that. And I don't know why I find it so fascinating, but I really do. This is a really nice one for Wonder Woman. Yeah, I don't really know if kind of bringing up that Wonder Woman is is a beautiful woman is perhaps the most appropriate way to sort of sell the character here in Japan. Um, but she's actually is referred to as a senshi. I have heard that in the uh, promotional materials here. So I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. You sort of have to like, Japan is going to be Japan. And these things are like not always just like straight out little handbills. Sometimes you have these like sort of little mini magazine like things that are really nice. I really like this one because you can kind of see the sort of the old time. There's like Gal Gadot, or however you say her name, kind of fitting with like an old timey version of the comic book version of the character. And they've got these things in here that say like awesome and super, and I mean, it's just wow. I mean, this is great. I love this. And sorry, I haven't looked at this in a long time. It's just such a kick that just sort of the things you can find in these. I really love these kids here ducked up in the. Yeah, you'll have to forgive my poor coordination. Kind of do decked out in the costumes and stuff like that. Um, and then they throw in like the little Justice League promo along with Harley Quinn on there, which I guess Suicide Squad did pretty well here in Japan. I saw it, of course, back in America. I was still living there then, but there used to be a clothing shop nearby that had like some of these like cutesy mannequins decked out as Joker and Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. But anyway, getting back to things at the theater. Um, so after you besides those little area they have where they have all these playbills and things, which of course also include Japanese movies. It's always really fun to kind of go and just look at there and see these movies that you would never have heard even knew existed in the U.S. That honestly, there's like you go there and you start looking around. It's like, wow, this movie actually looks pretty interesting. Um, what was it? There was one High and Low End of Sky that I saw at the theater today. That like it's basically kind of like gangs fighting each other movie, but it looked really quite interesting. But the other really cool thing at Japanese movie theaters is that there's always a little area set aside to sell merchandise, which we don't really have that much in America. And you can get some really cool stuff at these things. I mean, it's not for every single movie. It has to sort of be for the sort of movie that would have merchandise. Like Logan, I went there to think of it, and you're like, okay, it's an X-Men movie. I should be able to find some little knickknack to kind of take home. And given the rather serious nature of the movie, no, there was nothing like that there. When I went to see Spider-Man today, they gave me this postcard, which was really quite cool. Get the spider logo there where the stamp goes. And I mean, they just flat out gave this to me. It was completely free, which was, of course, seriously cool. Um, but there's also stuff you can buy. When I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they had loads of stuff. I ended up picking up a couple of what in Japan are called uh, clear files, and they had various characters from the movie on them. I picked up two of those, one of which I use at my job just for the fun of it. And these are cool because they're only like 325 yen, so just a little under $3 each. And they have more expensive stuff there. And sometimes you can just see like just things you would never believe. Like when I saw Guardians, they had this Star Lord bandana with like pictures of the Star Lord mask on them. That was so cool. I'm not a bandana person, so I didn't buy it, but I thought it was really cool to see that. For like Spider-Man, they had these like little coin purses. They had clear files. They had little those Japanese style Kubrick action figure toys, um, pencils and pens, notebooks. There was even like a fan with um, some of the promo art put on, like one of the Asian style fans that people here do legitimately use. I've seen people out in public using those, although they almost exclusively are old men for whatever reason. Um, oh yeah, and speaking of freebies, this is I think one of the coolest one I just never even imagined that I would get my hands on that something like this would even exist, and it's John Wick 2 stickers. I mean, these are legitimate stickers, and I'm gonna see how close I can get this to the camera. I don't think you're gonna be able to read these very well. No, it doesn't look like. But yeah, it's like this one here on the left. It says, "I'm a dangerous guy." Uh, and then there's a Japanese translation, and is dog unharmed. I guess because of the animals being a big thing in the John Wick movies. And it's just sort of like, who would imagine that John Wick stickers even exist? It's just one of those things. It's sort of like, oh man, only Japan. Okay, so confession time. I don't really buy food at the movies, and I haven't for most of my life. I stopped doing that when I got old enough where I actually had to go to the theater and pay for my own tickets and snacks and stuff. And I kind of realized, like, wow, movie theater food is a serious ripoff. They were actually having some kind of a sale today at the theater, though. I got a coupon when I bought my ticket for like popcorn mixed with chocolate and some other stuff there. One thing I did notice is they actually were selling like some sort of limited editions like popcorn bucket shaped like Spider-Man's head. You could actually like just like eat popcorn out of Spidey's head. In fact, the guy who sat next to me at the movie, he was eating his popcorn out of one of those. Um, so that's another little bit of merch that you can purchase there. And again, exactly how much it is really depends on just what kind of movie it is. Like I said, Logan didn't have anything. The John Wick stickers were like a freebie giveaway. Usually stuff that's aimed at kind of family audiences. Excuse me. Where kids will have a lot of stuff. Cars, Despicable Me, the new Despicable Me, or no, Minions, or whatever. I've never seen those movies. They had some of those. There's this movie here from Japan that just came out called Mary and the Witch's Flower. It's apparently based on some British novel. That had quite a bit of merchandise for it. They did there was a live action Gintama movie that came out recently. They had quite a bit of stuff for that. Um, I've seen like decent bit of merchandise for Fast and the Furious when their latest movie came out here. So there's all this really cool stuff. Personally, I'm kind of trying to make it a point not to buy a whole lot of stuff these days. When I lived in Japan before, I literally sent boxes and boxes of knickknacks home, and they all basically ended up gathering dust in my grandfather's basement just because where in the world did I have room to put all this stuff? So little things like this that don't take up a lot of room, these are kind of my go-to things if I want a souvenir. Although I have to admit, I really do love those handbill things because what's cool about them is, and I did this when I lived in Korea, is you can take them home and just frame them. And if you're a nerdy person, then this is like a great and very cheap way to decorate your home. And even if you're not, well, just find one for a movie that you really like, and it's basically like a free movie poster. Nobody thinks anything particularly strange of somebody having a poster for a movie they really like in their home, right? Um, so anyway, going actually into the theater, I don't know if this is a policy nationwide, but the movie theater I always go to is you're not allowed to go into the theater until 10 minutes before the movie starts. Not really sure exactly why that is. I guess it's maybe just The staff is very precise in their when does this theater get cleaned thing, or maybe they don't want somebody going in there 20 or 30 minutes before it, spilling their soda, and then having it have like the better part of 2 or 3 hours to sort of soak into stuff or whatever. But it's not really a big deal. The lobbies are usually pretty nicely sized, so you have plenty of space to sort of chill. And there's even near the concession stand, like a little area for people to sit and sort of get an early start on their snacks if they'd like. Uh, and theater seats here are basically assigned, which I don't really have a problem with. I'm pretty well used to that from living in Korea and things like that. Um, Before the movie, of course, you get trailers and stuff. But usually, like in America, one thing I hate about going to the movie theater is basically you sit there and they spend like several minutes just showing you commercials. And all the little slides that appear on the screen are just nothing but ads. Well, in Japan, they don't really do that here. It's usually sort of like little preview things, like just for various movies, talking about things, trying to get people hyped up. I saw like this sort of promo for the Smurf movie where they had some of the actresses who were playing various Smurfs come in and say like, I'm whoever, one of the stars of the Smurfs. And yeah, it was just sort of something a little bit more interesting than yet another ad for the local car dealership. Um, what did surprise me that when I went to the movies this time is every other time I've gone to the movies here, uh, there's been no option for a dub. Oh, I was actually trying to go to a 12:30 show, but when I got there, which they were nice enough to put the descriptions of the movies in both English and Japanese, not that being able to read Spider-Man in Japanese is very difficult if you've got katakana under your belt, which is dirt simple to learn. It's pretty easy to pick out, but it did sort of list it that it was dubbed. Now I know both how to say subtitled and dubbed in Japanese, but still that was definitely did make sure that I didn't go into the wrong theater, the wrong viewing. When I had a similar situation happen to me when I tried to go see one of the Harry Potter movies here in Japan years and years ago. I think it was Goblet of Fire. The one of the people that worked there like made it a point to make sure I understood like, no, you don't want to go to that showing that's been dubbed into Japanese, assuming correctly that I wanted to watch one where the dialogue was in English. So that was very nice of that lady. It is very interesting to watch American movies with Japanese subtitles, just to sort of compare if your Japanese is up to it. Which I mean, I can't understand everything that's in those subtitles. Kanji is admittedly my weakest area of Japanese, and my Japanese is unfortunately not as strong as I would wish it to be. But I'm trying to get it up there. Anyway, it is very interesting to sort of see what how various things are translated, and I will say that I think that the quality of translations has improved in recent years. I remember years ago I was watching the trailer with one of my friends who also knew Japanese for The Incredibles, and the translation of that with the subtitles was just absolutely awful. Um, and yeah, sometimes you get very, very questionable translations of things. Sometimes they're good. By and large, I haven't really had any moments where I've gone like, whoa, that's not even close to what the character said in English moments here, which I did have more than once in the past. But that's not really a by and large thing. And that is kind of one of the nice bonuses that even if you're chilling at just taking in a movie, you can always sort of use that opportunity to sort of practice your Japanese a little bit. It is always interesting to sort of look at what kind of honorifics get assigned to various sorts of characters. I was a little bit surprised, for example, to see the vulture be given watashi as his pronoun. Kind of given the nature of his character, but it's one of those things. It's like, Well, I don't know if I'd have gone with that way, but I can kind of see where somebody would. Spider-Man, incidentally, uses boku, which is absolutely what he should use in Japanese. Um, but yeah, I mean, these are little things. Um, Now, exactly what I thought of Spider-Man Homecoming, well, I think that's kind of outside the scope of this particular video. I do have another YouTube channel under the name Hoosier Jedi, if you're interested, where I do actually talk about nerdy TV and movie things. So if you'd like to check that out, please feel free to do so. I'm always happy to have people drop on by. Um, but yeah, it... by and large, going to the movies, while in Japan, while usually a little more expensive than in the US, it's quite a bit of fun. And if you're interested in picking up some unique merchandise, this sort of, kind of something to remember the movie by, or, um, if just sort of something to send to your friends at home, it's really great. I do kind of wish there was more stuff that I could look at and just sort of say like, yes, this is something that's uniquely Japanese. I'm always looking for something with like actual Japanese written on it. I think the fan with Iron Man and Spider-Man on it was like the most unquestionably this is Japanese thing that I saw, but this is just my personal taste in souvenirs. So that's I mean that is what it is. But yeah, price issues aside, going to the movies is pretty fun in Japan. So if you have the opportunity, it's something I would definitely recommend. So with that said, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter as well at Gaijin Gaiden. And please also consider checking out my other YouTube channel. Again, that's Hoosier Jedi. That's Hoosier Jedi. For anybody who doesn't know, Hoosier is the nickname for people who are from the state of Indiana, which I am from the state of Indiana. Okay, so again, guys, thanks for tuning in, and take care and have a good one.